I'm Mike Way, and welcome to the first of 3 instructional tapes on squash. In this first tape, we're going to be covering the basics of the forehand and backhand drives, forehand and backhand volleys, and the serve and serve return. I'll be giving you coaching tips for each shot as we go through the tape. But remember, the best coach of all is actually watching the boys in their drills and exercises, practicing their shots. Before we go to the first shot, let's have a look at our game from a tactical point of view. It's important to start the rallies by getting the ball to the back of the court. We refer to this as good length in squash. There are 3 advantages to playing good length. Number 1, it gives us time to get back to the tee position. Number 2, it stops our opponent from being able to play an attacking shot. And number 3, it may set us up with an attacking position in the front or the mid-court. The front of the court could be an attack or defensive position. A good length often produces a defensive boast, and here's Jonathon in an attacking situation in the front. If he plays a drop shot to the front corner, his opponent will be defending from this position. Balls from the mid-court are nearly always attacking shots, often on the volley. Here we have Jonathon and Graham in Qatar in the '98 World Championships. This is early in the match, and the players are trying to settle themselves down by finding good length and waiting for attacking opportunities. In this rally and others in this tape, we're going to see the full array of squash shots. A lot of these shots are not covered in this first tape. We're just dealing with basic technique. But we can see how 2 good squash players can move the ball around the court. Most attacking shots in squash actually come back. It's important not to get frustrated, especially in the first couple of games when your opponent is returning your best shots. We can see how important it is to get back to the tee position before our opponent plays his next shot. In this long rally, both players, apart from settling down, finding their good length, are just really trying to work their opponent around the court, concentrating on the mileage factor. This is a very important part in squash, obviously, to get your opponent tired, and the winners later on in the match will come a little easier. Before we look at the 2 drives, we're going to take a close look at the grip. The grip is very important because it allows the wrist and the forearm to move in the most efficient way as we strike the ball. Let's have a close look at it right now. This particular grip here, we can see that the V between the thumb and the first finger is to the left of the top center of the racket. The thumb is next to the second finger, and my first finger is spread so that the first knuckle is near the top of the grip. The grip can be anywhere from this position, moving now to the right. I've still got my thumb next to the second finger. The V is still to the left, but now this first knuckle is near the bottom of the grip. Anywhere between these 2 positions is deemed to be correct. So let's have a look at how Jonathon and Graham hold their rackets. If we look at Jonathon's grip here, we can see there's the thumb nestled next to the second finger. The first finger is spread, and that first knuckle is near the top of the racket. And the same with Graham, the same position. The V is well to the left of center. This grip is often referred to as the modern grip in squash. This allows for the best wrist and forearm action when they're striking the ball. As we first look at the forehand drive, we can see that the players are moving in a nice, easy rhythm back to the tee between each shot. The racket comes back before the ball bounces. They turn the shoulders to the side wall, and they're preferring to hit off the right foot. This is because they're moving back from the tee position. We can also see that the styles are not identical. It's important that you don't get hung up on any one particular style. You just need to focus on getting the mechanics correct through the hitting zone. This exercise, a short hitting drill, is to focus exactly on that hitting zone. As we look at this, we can see that Jonathon gets his racket back before the ball bounces. It's a short swing because he doesn't have much time, but we can see a good grip and wrist position. This allows for the mechanics of the wrist and the forearm to work in the most efficient way, to control the ball and to give it a bit of power. Graham's a little more upright in his stance, but as he comes through the ball, we can see again that good wrist position. We refer to this as the cocked wrist in squash. Once again, you'll see both players are hitting off the right foot. This is okay as long as they turn the shoulders. And there's that wrist. Racket back, wrist cocked. This is one of the best practices in squash for your technique on both the forehand and the backhand side. Practice all your shots across the middle off the correct foot first. You'll notice Jonathon and Graham are hitting most of their shots across the middle here off the right foot, the wrong foot. They're doing this because it's quicker to the ball and it's quicker back to the tee. This is perfectly acceptable, providing the shoulders come around to more or less face the side wall. Another important point of your technique is to have weight transfer into the shot. So whether you're doing short hitting or driving off the back wall, make sure that after you've hit the ball, push out from the side wall and the ball so that your weight is now back on your right foot, and then step in. Once you've learned to do this, it's perfectly okay to learn the shot off the right foot. The length of a swing is determined by how much time you have, and sometimes, if it's in the corner, how much space. The first 2 points that I'm going to go over now are going to help you get into the best position to strike the ball. If I take my elbow high and turn my shoulders, which can happen quite naturally together, this is the best ready position. Where your arm position is at the top of the swing really doesn't matter. Some people will be where I am now, some people pointing up there. That's your own particular style. These 2 key points will help you get ready for the shot. Elbow high and shoulder turn. The left arm is out here for balance and to help me set up in line with the ball. The impact of the forehand drive for a straight drive is just between the feet, anywhere from the middle of the feet to just behind the leading foot. Here's Graham showing us his strike position off the left foot. An advanced player can also control the ball off the other foot, the right foot. Providing he turns his shoulders, he can control the ball. As you come through the hitting zone, the left shoulder will release to let the right arm come through. Finish the shot, and there's your full swing. Let's have a look at how the boys hit it. As Graham gets into his drill here, you can see he finds a nice rhythm in his practice. Racket comes back nice and early, elbow high, shoulders turn, and the left arm comes out there for balance. We can also see at the top of the swing, that cocked wrist position. The wrist stays strong through the whole of the shot. We can actually see this cocked wrist there on the follow through. From this position here, we can also see that his head keeps fairly still as he's playing his shot, and a good shoulder rotation on the follow through. Graham's length is very consistent here, and we can see that he's hitting most of his shots right around the service line. Where you hit the ball on the front wall, of course, is going to depend on how much power you can generate and the temperature of the court. Maybe other conditions, such as what ball you're playing with and what altitude. When two players are practicing together, they're also working on the movement from the tee position into the corner. If the ball goes back behind them and they're under a little bit of pressure, you'll notice they'll prefer to step onto the right foot. If the ball comes out from the back wall, they may step forward onto the left foot or just get a 2-foot plant to get nicely balanced before they strike the ball. We can also see in this exercise that the length of the swing may vary depending on how much time the player has to hit the ball and sometimes how much space there is around it. If the ball is tight in the corner, a short punchy swing like we saw in the short hitting is the best way to go. If the ball comes out off the back wall, the elbow will come up higher, the shoulders will turn, and a harder drive is more likely to be struck. And here we are back in the match with a short rally on the forehand side. As we look at this rally again in slow motion, we can see the racket preparation, good balance and turn into the corner, and returning to the tee between each shot. And here's a tight shot from Jonathon, forcing Graham's shot to come out to the middle, an automatic stroke. In our first look at the backhand drive, we can see, similar to the forehand, the racket comes back before the bounce, a good shoulder turn, a nice concentration on the ball as they get into their rhythm of this drill. As in the forehand drive, what takes place through the hitting zone on the backhand is critical. Here we see Graham, racket back before the bounce, a good cocked wrist, and a nice follow through to the target. By this, I mean where the ball is going to strike on the front wall. This helps transfer maximum power and aids in directing and controlling the ball. This practice helps you master the mechanics of the grip, wrist and forearm action through the hitting zone. And here's Jonathon. Immediately we can see a different style, but the key points of technique are still there. Here he is hitting off the left foot, the wrong foot, if you wish, but he's making sure he's got his shoulders turned, and this helps him still to be able to control the ball. Racket back before the bounce. Short follow through towards the target on the front wall. Good concentration and a nice easy rhythm. here we can see that cocked wrist. You'll have noticed in that exercise that very often the rackets were finishing towards the target. By this, what I mean is that the racket face is aiming towards a point on the wall where the ball is going to hit. This is very important in your technique. This will help you through the hitting zone. It'll help you control the ball and keep the ball hugging to the side wall as you go for good length. Your own particular style is still going to play a major role in your swing. But if you try this out, I think you'll find it works. Remember the two key points that we were using to set ourselves up for the forehand, elbow high and shoulder turn. On the backhand, it's similar, except that the elbow is now much lower. I like to say, get the elbow back. Let's have a look at it. Elbow back, shoulder turn, swing through the hitting zone and release. Let the shoulders come round. Elbow back and shoulder turn. In this position, I'm going to come down through the hitting zone, and for the straight drive, I'm going to impact with the ball just in front of the leading foot there. The leading shoulder is then going to release, and a nice follow through for the full swing. There it is again. Elbow and shoulders together, release through the hitting zone. Let's have a look at Jonathon and Graham again on their backhand drives. Racket back before the bounce, shoulder turn, and here's the impact just in front of the right foot. Again, a nice easy rhythm as he's practicing his shot, and good concentration on the ball. You'll notice between shots, he pushes out from his right foot just to make sure that there's a weight transfer when he comes in to play it again, and so he's not crowding the side wall and the ball. With Graham here, we can see a nice release of that right shoulder, elbow back, shoulders turned, good release, and keeping his head as still as he can. Graham's left arm scissor action, more pronounced than Jonathon's, is helping him with balance and power as he drives through the ball. We can also notice from this angle the good wrist position at the top of the backswing, and as the arm and the forearm comes down through the hitting zone. And here we are, back in the match, with part of a rally on the backhand side. Similarly with the forehand, we can see how the racket comes back as the player leaves the tee position. Good balance in the corner, and that follow through, which is actually part of the return to the tee. Racket back, pushing out of the corner. Good basic technique on the backhand is very important. I'd like to emphasize a couple of points. Think of the hitting zone on a drive as that part of the swing that's below your hips, from here through to here. Targeting your racket face in the direction that the ball is going will help you with your drive and assist in control. Some players appear to keep the racket head on target through the entire swing. Other players come up like this. This is not a right or wrong issue. It depends on what you need to do at that instant to control the ball. Again, don't get hung up on your swing. The critical points are the grip, the wrist, and the forearm action through the hitting zone. When they're practicing together, as in the forehand, they're back to the tee between each shot. Watch them as they move off the tee. The racket starts to come back as soon as they start approaching the corner. Racket back, shoulders turned. Most players prefer to lead with the right foot into the backhand corner, but sometimes under pressure you'll need to go with your left or do a little shuffle onto both feet to get nicely balanced before you play your drive. If you're having trouble controlling the ball on the backhand side, keep your elbow further out from the body. Simply reach back and focus on one line through that hitting zone. One final point, I see a lot of club players standing on the tee or moving to the ball with their racket up. It's much more important to think in terms of getting the racket back. If time permits, the racket will come back and up automatically. But if I'm under pressure or I want to attack on the volley, focusing on racket back first is actually much more critical. Before we go to the mechanics of the volley, let's just have a look at a simple exercise that Jonathon and Graham like to warm up with. When do we volley? Quite simply, when we're able to, with control. Volleying takes time away from our opponent and forces them to rush around the court, creating more attacking opportunities for us, sometimes being able to hit outright winners. Let's have a look at this technique with Graham and Jonathon. When practicing the volley, the short hitting is the best way to go. Racket back before the ball's in the strike position, good concentration and a nice easy rhythm. The grip is probably a little firmer for most people on this swing. Here we see the shot being played off the right foot. Again, this is okay providing the shoulders turn towards the side wall. From this position, we can see Graham's keeping his head still, again racket back before the ball gets in the strike position, and look at that cocked wrist. Here's an exercise with both players, one driving from the back of the court and the other one stepping across, volleying straight down the wall. On the backhand short hitting practice, again the grip will be a little firmer, racket back before the ball's in the strike position, and just a small shoulder turn here because there's not enough time to take a fuller swing. Here he is hitting off the left foot, getting the shoulders around. See the racket head coming through towards the target on the follow through. On a longer swing, of course, it would end up coming further around towards the center of the court. Good concentration, good wrist position, and a nice, easy rhythm as he practices this shot. And again, the exercise with two players, one at the back of the court playing straight drives, and the other player stepping across from the tee, cutting the ball off on the volley. This little solo exercise is much more difficult than it looks, but is terrific for building strength in the wrist and the forearm. And here's one from further back on the tee position. Alternating forehand and backhand volleys. We call these the figure eights. Very good for strength, concentration and ball control. In this drill, of course, we can see the racket coming back in preparation for the next shot. Good wrist position, and sometimes Jonathon's having to improvise here a little bit if he's losing a bit of control with the ball. So here we are back at the World Championships with Jonathon and Graham. Let's review the technique that we've covered so far: the forehand and backhand drive and the forehand and backhand volley. And there's two quick volleys from Graham, putting Jonathon under pressure. And then we have two from Jonathon, returning the pressure. See the players stretching on the wrong foot in those back corners when they have to. And now we're back to good length, and we can see the racket preparation. Racket back nice and early, good balance. And always back to that tee position. That volley was a bit of a stretch, as was that one. More pressure on the volley. He's making sure that ball's getting to the back of the court, and we've gone back to good length. What a great rally. Let's take a couple of minutes and look at the serve. Try and keep your fingers off the fast forward button. This won't take long. Obviously, we don't want to set our opponent up with an attacking opportunity, so we must ensure that the serve is wide into the side wall, and if our opponent doesn't cut it off on the volley, that it lands in the back corner. With a bit of practice, maybe we can get our opponent to return the serve with a defensive boast. There are basically two types of serve, the lob serve and the flat driven serve. Let's take a minute now and just watch Graham starting with the lob serve. You'll need to hit it under the ball for the lob serve. Take the ball out in front of your leading foot and get the ball high and wide onto the side wall. The ball will hit the front wall near the center or a bit to the left. For the driven serve, the ball is struck about shoulder or head height. Good width is still required, and of course you need to hit the ball a bit firmer. Here's a variation from Graham using a backhand serve. Lobbing the ball from the left court is a little more dangerous, so most players will opt to hit the ball flatter. I just want to add a word about the serve return, probably the most difficult shot in squash to learn. Many people are scared of the serve return because of the ball coming in off the side wall. If your opponent is serving well to you, firm up the grip, keep your eye on the ball and shorten the swing. Follow through to the target and then return to the tee. These pointers will help you, and with practice you'll get it no problem. And here we see Jonathon practicing this shot with the ball machine. Good concentration. On a weak serve, of course, you may elect to attack them. Here we see Jonathon on the forehand. Wrist cocked, racket in the ready position. And look at that shoulder turn and full concentration. The safest serve return is to bring the ball straight down the near wall. But you'll need to mix them up a little bit, otherwise you'll become too predictable. Let's have a look at the serve and the serve return in a game situation. And there's Jonathon, good width on the serve, and Graham bringing it back down the near side wall. On this serve from Graham, he's hit it a little too wide, and Jonathon's actually got an attacking position there. On this last example, Jonathon gets perfect width on the ball and forces a very weak return from Graham. The drop shot resulting from that sets him up with a winning drive on the forehand. As I mentioned at the beginning, watching the players closely will really help your technique. As you watch the tape again, become more aware of other shots in the rallies. These are covered in Power Squash Volumes 2 and 3. Let's have a look at some of those shots right now. Great drop shot and a terrific lob to get out of trouble. And there's a hard attacking cross-court drive and another one. Gotta find the length again. Drop, great counter drop, sets Graham up with a volley and a back wall boast and another drop. Tough call. Establish length first. Two good attacking cross-court drives there. Oh, very weak drop shot from Jonathon. Puts him under pressure. But he read that cross-court attacking drive. Graham under pressure. Jonathon creating a volley opening. And we're back to good length. That counter drop setting up Graham's attack on the volley. Good volley drop, but a brilliant straight drive to finish the rally. We'll see again in tapes 2 and 3. Have fun, work hard, and take lessons from your local pro. Cheers.